And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Colonel Bleep's arrival on Earth. Colonel Bleep, interplanetary intelligence agent for the planet Futura, had completed another dangerous mission. That arch-criminal, Dr. Destructo, had at last been captured and was at this very moment a prisoner in a space bubble securely anchored in the outer ring of the planet Saturn. And now the Futuran High Command had ordered Colonel Bleep on a new assignment, a top-secret mission to investigate reports of disturbances on worlds of outer space, the distant planet Earth in particular, to observe its places, people, and customs. It was therefore only a few days later that the giant telescope at Mount Palomar Observatory first gave news to people of Earth of Colonel Bleep's approach. The powerful lenses focused on this curious visitor from the outer world as he flashed past the planets Uranus and Neptune, and then rapidly spanned the empty space towards our own planet, Earth. Actually, the people of Futura had only recently become interested in Earth. To Futurans, the Earth was only a small planet revolving around the minor sun of the Milky Way galaxy, and hardly worth investigation under ordinary circumstances. However, on July 16, 1945, they had observed what appeared to be an atomic explosion on the Earth planet. As time went on, Futuran Futonic radar scopes recorded an increase in the number and fury of these explosions. And in the Earth's stratosphere, even the rocket trails of guided missiles were observed. To Futurans, these were signs of trouble. Trouble in space, and trouble anywhere in space is the concern of the Futura Interplanetary High Command. And so Colonel Bleep has arrived. And the exciting adventures of his new secret mission are about to begin. With Colonel Bleep are two unusual companions to share his exciting adventures. First, there is Squeak, a happy-go-lucky boy of the present, very much like you, except that Squeak is a puppet and cannot speak a single word, because, as you all know, a puppet cannot talk for himself. But Squeak is filled with curiosity, as all boys are, and you all know the troubles curiosity can often bring about. Second, there is Scratch, an expert on the past, who, like other cavemen, should really have become extinct several thousand years ago. But Scratch fell asleep and slept right through the evolution of man, and didn't wake up until that first atomic explosion blew him right out of the past and into the present. Scratch, like most cavemen, is sometimes a trifle slow at catching on. But when danger threatens, Bleep and Squeak can depend on quick action from Scratch and his trusty club, as they shall see. So here they are, three very strange companions. Colonel Bleep of the future, Squeak of the present, and Scratch of the distant past. Together they travel up, down, backwards or forwards, in distance or in time. Together they face danger and death as they fight to maintain right and justice throughout the vast galaxies of the world. And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Danger Below. Far out in space, on a tiny ocean-covered planet, lies the lily-pad kingdom of Aqualand. Here, in this beautiful watery world,
live the friendly frogmen, curious inhabitants of this curious land. And far below, in the hidden coves of the ocean floor, these little fellows gather the most priceless gems of the galaxies. For only here, in the secret treasure beds of the frogmen, can be found the precious, giant pearls of Aqualand. But no longer is the secret of these rich pearl beds known only to the frogmen. For suddenly, a monstrous shadow looms into view. In sheer terror, the frogmen flee, for this is Octo the Terrible, the blackest, meanest octopus in the sea. Helplessly, the divers watch as this wicked creature carries off load after load of their precious pearls. And so it is that Colonel Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch streak to the aid of the frogmen, arriving just in time to see the thieving culprit scurry off with the last of the gleaming gems. Following closely, the spaceman and his deputies watch amazed as the monster pours the stolen treasure into the hatch of a waiting submarine. Through a porthole of the sub stare the greedy eyes of Dr. Destructo, the mastermind behind this wicked scheme. Little Squeak tosses his lasso with perfect aim and quickly ropes the terrible Octo out of action. But the evil Destructo has already zeroed in on Colonel Bleep. Fire! One! With a mighty roar, a giant torpedo thunders straight for the Colonel. Too late! The spaceman learns his water-soaked atomic energy supply is useless now. Is this the end for Colonel Bleep? How can he possibly escape this terrible fate? But wait! With a mighty leap, Scratch lands astride the deadly missile. In the nick of time, he pulls the rudder, missing the spaceman by only inches. Destructo, now in full retreat, crashes to the surface. But there is no escape. Now dead on his target, Scratch leaps to safety. Not one trace of Destructo's submarine remains. Not one clue to the doctor's fate. Only the gleaming pearls could be seen as they settled back once more to the treasure beds of Aqualand. The frogmen gave 3 rousing cheers, for they had witnessed proof indeed that a man's evil deeds, like a boomerang, have a way of coming back to him.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Dangerous Holiday.
According to Colonel Bleep, the planets of the universe are filled with exciting sights to see. Squeak and Scratch had already visited such unusual places as Aqualand, the watery world of the curious frogmen. Robot Land, the strange home of the mechanical men who happily work in great factory city. But now, the puppet and the caveman were to accompany Bleep for a short holiday on the most wonderful world of all, Bleep's own home planet, Futura, land of the future. Of course, Squeak and Scratch were expecting to have the time of their lives on such an exciting journey. But just as they passed through the rings of Saturn, almost halfway to Futura, our three friends were secretly spotted by a bitter enemy, the vicious Black Knight of Pluto. And so it was that when Bleep and his friends at last reached Futura, they were completely unaware that this cowardly villain was close behind them, like an evil black shadow, ready to strike when danger was least expected. Upon arrival, Colonel Bleep sped off to visit his fellow officers at the High Command headquarters, leaving Squeak and Scratch free to enjoy the glorious sights of this beautiful land. Their tour started on a vertical car which carried them straight to the top of the tallest Futurian skyscraper. But up ahead, the wicked knight was already prepared to send our sightseeing friends plunging to their doom. Just in time, the space deputies stepped to safety, quite unaware of their narrow escape. Once more, the evil knight strikes. And once again, Squeak and Scratch are unknowingly saved. An exciting ride on a speedy sky train turns out to be wonderful fun, in spite of the culprit's devilish scheme to send them spinning down to their death. Yes, to unsuspecting Squeak and Scratch, these Futurian rides were even more fun than the roller coaster back home. The Black Knight shook with rage. But then, suddenly, he saw one more chance. For now, our friends had hopped aboard a steer-it-yourself Skyway scooter. The tiny car rolled smoothly along, but just as the puppet and caveman settled back to relax, away they streak. Down they speed as fast as light, then up to a dizzy height. Over, then under, and back again. The speedometer reads 410. The Black Knight roars with laughter. For now he is sure Squeak and Scratch are doomed. Look! There they go into a loop-de-loop. Now here they come again. But wait! The runaway car is empty. It was empty. For now, the wicked knight is caught in his own trap. Away he goes, 1,000,000 miles beyond the Milky Way. But what has happened to Squeak and Scratch? Well, believe it or not, when the car looped the loop, they were gently transferred to a landing elevator. And there Colonel Bleep was waiting with a Futurian 4-flavor ice cream surprise for each of them. Yes, both Squeak and Scratch agreed that although Futurian ways of travel sometimes seem a trifle strange, the space deputies had never had a more wonderful time. And so it was that the cowardly Black Knight's destruction had turned into a day of fun for Squeak and Scratch.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of
Night of death. On a dark and stormy planet in outer space stands the tumble-down stronghold of the treacherous Black Knight of Pluto. Here the villain meets in secret session with Black Patch, the space pirate, and the sinister Black Robot. Hail, O Knight of the Double Cross! Quickly, the wicked leader reveals his plan for victory over Colonel Bleep. First, they will capture Squeak and Scratch. Then, trick the spaceman into exhausting his precious supply of powerful Futamic energy. Colonel Bleep will then be like putty in my hands. Hooray! Victory will be ours. Hooray! Together we shall rule the world. Hail! 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 Hours later, space deputies Squeak and Scratch streak over Pluto on their midday space patrol. Attention, space deputies. A fire-breathing dragon has kidnapped the beautiful Princess of Pluto. Begin rescue search immediately. Hold everything! Look, there below, those puffs of smoke. Could that cave be the lair of the wicked dragon? Help! Help! Save me! Save me! It is! The deputies plunge to the rescue. Help! 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 Sizzling Saturn! That's not the beautiful princess! That's no dragon either! Stop, fellas! It's a deadly ambush! Oh no! Squeak and Scratch are captured! Calling Colonel Bleep! Calling Colonel Bleep! Deputy Squeak and Scratch need help! Hurry! Great galaxies! Now the Colonel himself has been fooled by the Black Knight's treachery! He's speeding headlong into the villain's trap! But Colonel Bleep sees only Squeak's crumpled cowboy hat, Scratch's splintered club, and the monstrous sleeping dragon, which has obviously gulped down the Colonel's beloved deputies for lunch. Bleep's eyes are too filled with tears to notice that the dreadful dragon is only a hollow dummy, or that his two friends, still very much alive, are helplessly tied up inside. Suddenly, the Colonel's sorrow turns to anger. No fire-breathing monster can eat his loyal deputies. Every last ounce of Bleep's powerful Futamic energy supply will be jam-packed into one mighty blast of revenge. The evil beast will be blown to smithereens. Now, hidden inside the darkened cave, the Black Knight and his wicked companions watch with glee. This is exactly what they planned. Bleep's super-duper blast will destroy Squeak and Scratch and completely exhaust the Colonel's Futamic energy supply. He'll be helpless. But look, those puffs of smoke from the dummy dragon. They're forming the SOS signal in dot-dash code. Squeak and Scratch are signaling the Colonel just in time. Now Bleep whirls about and sends the shattering blast deep inside the cave. And Scratch were saved. And the evil Black Knight and his partners in crime learned that not even a fire-breathing monster can compare with Colonel Bleep's powerful atomic energy.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Manhunt on the Moon. Interplanetary investigator Colonel Bleep and his space deputies, Squeak and Scratch, floated to a stop just above the surface of the moon. They were searching for some trace of the terrible Dr. Destructo among the thousands of crater marks that dotted the strange landscape. To Bleep, it appeared that these craters might have been caused by thousands of meteors crashing down at terrific speed. But many scientists believe the strange markings are the scars of a tremendous bubbling action caused when hot internal gases escaped to the outer surface back when the moon was soft and pliable. Scratch, however, imagined the many craters had been left long ago by violent volcanic eruptions, similar to those the planet Earth had experienced from time to time. Then something below caught their attention. Glistening in the sun at the very top of Mount Leibniz, the moon's highest visible peak, stood a strange tower. It closely resembled the man-made structure called the Eiffel Tower, which is a familiar landmark on Earth, in the city of Paris. Diving down for a closer look, Bleep and his friends found a huge reflecting mirror with a powerful lens attached to the top of the tower. This had been the moon power device used by Dr. Destructo not long ago to guide the runaway rocket straight down toward 00 Island. While Bleep and Squeak searched for clues, Scratch peered through the powerful lens for a telescopic view of the Earth beyond. But as he looked, he froze with horror. For there, with one foot on South America and the other on South Africa, stood a tremendous black giant. Actually, it was only a highly magnified shadow of the caveman himself, projected nearly 250,000 miles through space by the light of the moon. But the sight was so terrifying, the frightened Scratch fell over backwards and tumbled down to almost certain death on the rocks below. Squeak looked up just in time to see his helpless companion falling straight down upon the puppet himself. Squeak couldn't move or even call for help. He could only cover his eyes and wait for the bone-splintering crash. He waited for the end, and waited, and waited, but nothing happened. Then Squeak opened his eyes just as Scratch gently floated into his arms. For you see, the gravity pull of the moon is only 1/6 as great as Earth, so Scratch almost floated down that great distance like a feather to land unharmed in the arms of little Squeak. Suddenly, Bleep urgently signaled his companions. He had found still another clue. At the base of the tower was a scrap of notebook paper covered with the hasty scrawls of Dr. Destructo's own hand. To the others, it was only a jumble of strange symbols. But to Bleep, this was a flight plan, Destructo's own flight plan. And it told the Colonel exactly where this master culprit had gone. It would take courage to follow Destructo now. For Bleep knew this place, knew it too well, and he was sure that fantastic terrors would be waiting out there. And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Scratch and his feathered friend. Interplanetary space investigator Colonel Bleep and his deputies, Squeak and Scratch, roared with atomic speed past the black planet Pluto, over and under the green planets Neptune and Uranus, through the glowing yellow rings of Saturn, and then screeched to a halt, directly over the 12th moon of Jupiter. Somewhere below, on this mysterious satellite, lurked the evil Dr. Destructo, master criminal of outer space. This time, Bleep meant to track him down for sure. To Scratch, the caveman, landing here was like stepping back into the dim past of his childhood, because this forgotten world was inhabited by the same prehistoric monsters which roamed the earth when Scratch was just a boy, back in the days of the dinosaurs. Anxiously, Bleep searched the horizon with his Butomic Visoscanner and quickly spotted Destructo's hideaway, high on a rocky cliff beyond. At twilight, they would attack and capture the villain in his lair. Meanwhile, Squeak settled down on a cozy bed of soft green ferns to rest until 0 hour. And Scratch, remembering his childhood, went happily off in search of a tasty prehistoric egg, a luscious treat he had not enjoyed for several thousand years. The caveman was at home here, and no beast, regardless of size, ferociousness, or cunning, could frighten him or keep him from finding that egg. And then Scratch saw it, the biggest, roundest, most delicious egg there ever was. But when Scratch reached to pick up his prize, it suddenly began to shake and rattle and roll round and round. The caveman dove under a feather to hide just as the great egg shattered. And there stood a strange bird, a super bird, far larger than Scratch himself. Thinking the top of Scratch's head was another egg, the bird tried to peck it open too. And when Scratch leaped up, the bird felt sure this was his newly hatched brother, and he began to hug the caveman joyfully. Meanwhile, as twilight gathered, Bleep and Squeak silently closed in on the entrance to Dr. Destructo's secret cave. A strange glow from within meant the mad scientist was busy at work, and his capture looked easy if only they could be quiet enough to surprise him. But just at that moment, Squeak accidentally squeaked, alerting the huge vampire bat which stood guard at the mouth of the cave. The evil creature lunged towards them. At the same time, Bleep aimed a blast of Butomic energy at the beast. But too late, he realized that the long trip to Jupiter's 12th moon had completely discharged his Butomic storage batteries. Now, the great bat swooped upward, clutching the helpless pair. But Scratch, riding his prehistoric superbird, had also seen the bat, and in an instant, the huge bird, with the caveman at the controls, dived down towards the monster for a fight to the finish. Then a head-on crash sent the bat spinning down, straight towards the entrance of Destructo's hideout, while Bleep and Squeak floated to safety on 2 great feathers. Yes, Scratch and Superbird had saved the day, but there was no time now to check on the fate of Destructo, because Superbird was waiting to fly them back to the planet Futura, where a new supply of Butomic energy and another exciting assignment would be waiting for Colonel Bleep of the Interplanetary Space Command. And now, stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Shadows of Suspicion. Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch spent many happy days at their home base on Earth, 00 Island. The Colonel kept busy with new experiments in his lab. Scratch spent many happy hours digging away in the garden, and Squeak played with his favorite toy, a little wooden puppet. Squeak loved this toy, perhaps because he himself was made of choice lumber. A block of delicate white pine for his head, and a board of sturdy oak for his body. Yes, little Squeak was really a wooden puppet, but few could have guessed that he was anything other than a real and very natural little boy. For he certainly was full of mischief like most real little boys, as his friends knew too well. Bleep still recalls the shock of dashing about for almost an hour, dodging what he believed to be flashing meteorites, only to discover later that little Squeak had slipped a handful of fireflies into the Colonel's helmet, just for fun. Another time, Bleep awoke from a sound sleep to find himself covered with green and yellow spots, a sure sign of Futurian frog pox. But little Squeak knew that the colorful dots on the spaceman's helmet were just dabs of paint, for the puppet had put them there himself, just for fun. But it was poor Scratch, the good-natured caveman, who suffered most from this puppet trickery. More than once, his trusty wooden club had been nailed to the floor. And who can recall how many times a scrumptious coconut pie had a hidden balloon inside, just waiting for poor Scratch's knife or fork. Squeak's favorite prank, however, was making shadow pictures on the wall by holding his fingers in front of a bright candle. He would create the shadow of a wolf, then signal for help, and Scratch would dash to the rescue, only to find the puppet rocking with laughter at his joke. The caveman had been fooled by Squeak's shadow pictures of a giant crab, a monstrous crocodile, and a ferocious ostrich. At last, Scratch had vowed never to be tricked again. Then, one day, it happened. Bleep had blasted off for a closer look at a storm cloud approaching the island. Scratch was inside his cave, carving a new wooden club, and Squeak was fishing in the brook by the waterfall. At the first raindrop, Squeak dashed for the nearby shelter of Scratch's cave. Now, no one had noticed that a giant tropical spider had just spun its huge web across the cave entrance, and poor Squeak ran smack into this deadly trap. Scratch looked towards the doorway to see the puppet snared in the giant web, but as he watched, the stormy sky outside made his poor struggling friend look like just another of Squeak's own shadow tricks, and Scratch returned to his club carving, determined not to be fooled again, and never dreaming that his little friend was really in trouble this time. Poor Squeak shook with terror as the giant spider appeared, ready to devour him. It would be all over in a flash. And it was, but the flash was from a powerful bolt of Bleep's atomic energy. Yes, the Colonel had returned just in time to save the puppet. And so a very frightened Squeak, now safe in the arms of his friends, promised faithfully never to call for help unless he was in honest-to-goodness real trouble. For now he knows that a foolish trick can sometimes cost a life.